The restaurant sparkled with crystal lamps and shiny silverware. Alexander Stone sat at his usual corner table, looking at his fancy watch for the third time. At 38, he was the boss of Stone Industries, very rich and very tired of his daily routine. This blind date, which his pushy assistant Jennifer had set up, would be his last one. After tonight, he would accept that having a girlfriend or wife was not for him. Jennifer had begged him one last time. Elena is different. She is not like the others. Please go. Alexander had heard that many times before. Every woman Jennifer had introduced him to wanted the same thing: his money, his high status, his fancy apartment. Not him. Never him. He would give this Elena exactly 30 minutes, then make up an excuse and leave. He had to look over some business papers anyway. A woman walked into the restaurant and Alexander barely looked up. Then he looked again. She wore a simple, light yellow summer dress. Not an expensive designer one, but nice. Her brown hair was casually pulled back, and she carried a worn-out leather bag. She looked nervous as she looked around the room and clearly felt out of place in this expensive restaurant. When her eyes met his, she slowly walked up to him. Alexander Stone. That's me. Out of deep-rooted good manners, he stood up. You must be Elena. Elena Martinez. She sat down and looked uncomfortable. Thank you for agreeing to this. Jennifer said many good things about you. Jennifer is hopeful about most things, Alexander said coolly, already putting up his protective wall. Elena smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She warned me that you would be doubtful. She said you have had some tough experiences with dates. That's a polite way of saying it. I can understand that, Elena said simply. I am a high school teacher. The last man I dated was lovely until he found out that I teach at a poor public school instead of working at a famous private school. Apparently, my lack of desire to be rich was worrying to him. Alexander noticed he was actually listening. You care a lot about good teaching, not about your paycheck. Exactly. The kids at my school need people to speak up for them, not teachers who only care about their salary. She paused. But that way of thinking doesn't work well on dates. Men want someone they can proudly show off to their coworkers, not someone who spends her own money to buy students school supplies. That is amazing, Alexander said, surprising himself with how honest he sounded. It's not realistic, Elena corrected, at least in most people's minds. Jennifer said you care more about who a person is than what they look like. But honestly, looking around this restaurant, she said, pointing to the fancy surroundings, I'm not sure we fit together. This place is beautiful, but it is not my style at all. Her honesty was refreshing. Most women pretended to love everything about his life. Where would you rather be? Honestly, the taco truck near my school makes unbelievably good food for 1/10 of what this place costs. But Jennifer insisted you always meet your dates here. I do, Alexander admitted. It is familiar, controlled, and completely impersonal, Elena said softly. In a place like this, you can keep your feelings hidden. A real connection can't start at such a formal table. Alexander stared at her. You are very direct. I am a teacher. I spend my days with teenagers who can smell a lie from a mile away. Being direct is how I survive. She looked him straight in the eye. So let me be direct right now. I don't need your money. I am not impressed by your watch, your suit, or your fame. Jennifer said you are lonely and tired of pretending. Me too. So if we are doing this, can we skip the fake show and just talk like normal people? Something in Alexander's carefully built armor broke. What would you like to talk about? Why did you agree to this date? Jennifer said you almost said no. She told me you were different. I have heard that many times before. And were they different? Alexander thought about the line of women who wanted his credit card, his business friends, his last name. No, they all wanted the same thing. Money, status. Yes, Elena nodded. That must be tiring, always wondering if someone really likes you, or just what you can give them. You sound like you understand that. Different version, same idea. I have dated men who thought dating a teacher meant dating someone kind and caring, who would one day be a perfect mother. They didn't want me. They wanted a made-up idea of what a teacher represents. When they found out I have my own opinions, am sometimes very tired, and occasionally drink too much wine after parent-teacher meetings, they left. How much wine? Alexander asked with a smile that almost escaped him. Enough that I once left my grocery cart in the freezer aisle and went home without it, Elena admitted. I remembered it at 2 a.m. and had to go back the next day. The cashier judged me. Alexander laughed. He actually laughed for the first time in months. I once fell asleep in my office and woke up at 3 a.m. still holding my coffee cup. My assistant found me and asked if I had died. Did you still drink the coffee? It was cold. But yes, I have standards, but I also have none. They talked through dinner. It was a real conversation, not like a job interview. Elena told him about her students. The one who got accepted into college despite being homeless. The girl who discovered her love for writing poems. The boy who finally talked about his family's problems. She spoke with strong feelings, tiredness, and fierce protection. Alexander told her things he had never talked about. The pressure of running his father's company, the loneliness of being successful, the way his wealth had become a wall between him and real human connections. Everyone wants something from me, he admitted. Business. Partners want deals, friends want investments, women want my lifestyle, nobody just wants me. Who are you? Elena asked, without the title of CEO, without the money. Who is Alexander Stone? No one had ever asked him that question. He sat there thinking. I don't know anymore. I used to love architecture. I would walk around the city and draw buildings, but I haven't done that in 15 years. Why not? No time. The company demands everything, or you use the company to hide from everything. Elena suggested gently. It is safer to work than to risk being disappointed by people. You are very smart. You are very easy to see through for someone who tries so hard to be a mystery. Alexander smiled. What about you? Who is Elena Martinez without the title of teacher? Someone who loves terrible reality TV shows, bakes when she is stressed, and adopts plants that she accidentally kills, even though she tries her best. Someone who wanted to be a writer but chose teaching because she cared more about making a difference than being on the bestseller lists. Someone who is lonely but chooses carefully, because I would rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't truly see me. I see you, Alexander said quietly. Do you see a refreshing change from the women only after your money? The question hit him hard. That's fair. Can both things be true? Maybe, Elena said. But I need to know if you would be interested in me if I hadn't challenged your expectations, if I was just another nice person. Alexander thought honestly about it. I don't know, but I would like to find out. They left the restaurant and, at Elena's suggestion, walked to her favorite taco stand. Alexander, in his expensive suit, stood in line for street food with her. They ate sitting on a park bench, and he couldn't remember the last time food had tasted so good. This is better than the restaurant, he admitted. Everything tastes better when you are not pretending, Elena said. You were playing a part in there. The cold CEO, the controlled businessman. Out here you are just Alex eating tacos on a bench. I like this version better. No one calls me Alex. Do you want me to? Yes, he realized. I really do. Over the next few months they dated carefully. Elena turned down expensive gifts, insisted on splitting the bill, and kept her independence. She constantly challenged him on his habit of working too much, his emotional walls, and his fear of being hurt. "You built a fort," she told him one night. "It's very impressive, but you are lonely inside it, and you don't let anyone in because you are afraid they want to steal the place instead of keeping you company. And you want to keep me company? I want to know you, the real you, not the CEO, not the millionaire, but the man who loves architecture and hasn't drawn in 15 years. That's the person I care about." Alexander started drawing again. Elena sat patiently beside him during his walks around the city as he drew buildings, asking him questions about how he worked. She introduced him to her students, who treated him like a normal person, and asked him uncomfortable questions about why some people are so rich and others are poor. "Your girlfriend's students made me defend my entire business plan," Alexander told Jennifer, sounding a little shocked. "Good," Jennifer said. "You need people to challenge you." A year after their first date, Alexander asked her to marry him. Not at an expensive restaurant, but at the taco truck where they had their first real date. He didn't have a ring yet because he wanted to design it with her, knowing she hated anything too showy. "I was planning to never date again after that night," Alexander said. "I was so tired of pretending and acting. Then you showed up and insisted we stop the acting and just be ourselves. You saw right through my walls before I even finished building them. You demanded that I be myself, and you loved that person, even though he was difficult and closed off and scared." Elena cried and said, "Yes, you planned your last blind date. I planned mine too. I was so tired of men wanting a dream-like teacher for a wife. Then you actually listened when I told you about my students. You secretly paid for the entire school supply budget. You remembered all of their names. You realized that teaching isn't just my job. It's my life." At their wedding, Jennifer gave a speech about the blind date she almost gave up on. "Alex told me he would go on one more blind date and then never again," Jennifer told the guests. Elena told me the same thing. Both of them were tired of trying, but I knew they were perfect for each other. Two people who were sick of pretending and desperately wanted to be real. I just had to get them in the same room. They did the rest themselves by choosing to be honest with each other. Years later, Alexander would tell people that Elena saved his life without even knowing she was doing it. "I was choking on my own success," he explained, "surrounded by people who wanted my money. But not me." Elena walked into that restaurant in a simple dress with no hidden motives, just honesty. She challenged me, saw through me, and loved me not despite my walls, but by getting through them. And people would ask Elena, "What did he give you?" "Someone who listens," she said, "who values my work even though it doesn't make money, who paid for my education without telling me so I wouldn't feel like I owed him, who learned to be vulnerable because I refused to love a performance." We saved each other from a life of polite loneliness because sometimes the last chance is actually the first real one. Sometimes the person who challenges your defenses is exactly the person you need. And sometimes cold millionaires and simple teachers discover that real connections don't happen in fancy restaurants. They happen on park benches over street tacos when two exhausted people finally stop playing apart and start being themselves. If this story moved you, please share it and subscribe for more stories about real love that beats all expectations. Write a comment about someone who saw the real you behind your walls.